Can you guys hear me? And maybe
This.
I'll move once. Oh, is it this?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. So we have a light agenda today, and unless anyone has something last minute to talk about, which is fine. Which is just how 5.0 release is coming, what still needs to be done. I guess I'll start with Andy.
Yep. So last time I checked, we did not have any blocking bugs on the release. And so I tagged 5.0.0 RC1 and handed that over to QA. And I believe that they are building pods with the release and running some tests now. I don't know if there's anybody from QA on the call who could give a little bit more status on testing.
Yes, sir.
I'm not. Okay.
Yes, we rebuilt pods yesterday, but unfortunately, some of our data clean tests has caused some incorrect configuration, and we saw issues where we were not able to connect from the VMs to external connectivity. So I disabled the test, and last night I pushed the code and I'm redeploying them. At the first glance, I still see the same issue, but not sure if it is issue with the test again. So I have to still debug if it is still a serious problem or not. But we'll keep you posted.
Okay, thank you. Andy,
Yeah, so teacher, please let me know if you discover any blockers or need help with something.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll let you know, Andy. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Yesterday, Jono helped me debug the issue.
Okay, so we haven't listed them as blockers, but documentation is the other thing that needs attention.
Yeah, I need to migrate the R code guide to the R code document that I've written to the actual guide.
All right, so put it in the server's profile.
Yeah.
Just like the other ones have.
Do we want to merge that to 5.0 before doing the release so that
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I put it in master, cherry pick it to 5.0, good. I saw you made changes to Cord. Is it up to date?
Yeah, I made some changes since I had an Cord subscriber root that has been merged. I have to check if I cherry picked it to 5.0. No, I haven't. I'm cherry picking it now. And since we want to add some documentation fix to the release, yesterday someone on XOS reported a pointer to the old API in the VTN document. So since we are making the fixes, we should update that too.
So the VTN document, which one is that?
I published a bug on the documentation channel.
Yeah.
So it's not currently linked in the.
So it's it's an out-of-date, obsolete thing.
Hmm?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
So there are there is a file that is called XOS_VTN that is in the XOS repository that is not linked in the Git book that is published with the guide, but it still lists APIs that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. So that maybe that file just needs to be deleted.
I think it just needs to be updated with the new endpoint for the same feature. Because I know that the VTN service has been updated to use the new Chameleon API, and I'm not sure if the honest APIs are still the same or they've changed.
I can take a look at that if you point me to the document.
Sure.
We're also claiming in Cord that the Intel, MME, and HSS are part of the release, right? So has any of them for documentation been updated?
Yeah, I wanted to. Oh, sorry. Now I know what this one is because I wrote it. Sorry. This was just transcribing what used to be in a wiki page and then starting to update it, but not completely updating it. Thank you. Duh. All right. Scott ought to have a look at it too because he was going to make a pass. Duh. All right. Yeah. So back to MCord. We've got the eNode B, the MMU.
The MME and HSS.
Right.
So do we want to create blockers for this release for the documentation so we can keep track of them?
Yeah, we should do that.
I think the question is going to be, are any of those folks working on any of this because they're still trying to get the MWC demo going? So how long of a blocker does it say?
Well, it doesn't. So there's. I would argue it's minimal. What we need to accomplish is minimal. So let me go to Andy, who maybe could give the. So what we're now purely talking documentation. So you go to the MCord profile. We currently have the MCord NG40 manifest. Are there going to be two manifests, that one and one with a physical eNode B? And two, what services would be in those respective manifests?
It has to, because the
Right. So the MCord Cavium profile is the one that we've been using for 5.0, building the MWC demo around that. And so that has a bunch of new services. It has the Intel data plane, but it also has the open source MME, HSS, HSS database running Cassandra, and it can be configured to work with the physical eNode B. So we're going to need to, as far as I know, there's no documentation that exists on this profile. There's no documentation, as far as I know, that exists for how to hook in your eNode B to the pod. So I think there's a fair amount of work to do there.
Will the MCord NG40 profile still work in 5.0?
It should still work, yes.
All right. So to Yen's point, do we block on it or at a minimum? I would.
Well,
go ahead.
The people who can write that documentation, I think, are busy doing other things right now. So I'm not sure how that when we would get unblocked if we made that a blocker.
All right. So maybe I will sync up with you and we can come up with some intermediate plan. But what I would recommend is that we document what's there with the caveat that the installation and use, the subsections that are there for NG40 have not yet been written. So it's still in a preliminary status or something like that.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure out some strategy, and I'll take a shot. I'll take a shot at writing something, and then we'll
something
kind of move forward.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I can probably write something about how to configure the run slicing since I wrote the service, but then I need to talk with Ping and Carmen. I need to learn how to set up the eNode B.
Okay. So
I've seen it once, but I don't think that it will be enough.
We'll minimally list what's there and then document what's not documented. Document what we can and document what's not documented.
the pod ships today, so
What's
you
that?
can always, the pod ships today, so you can always ping O's and see if there's like a teeny bit of bandwidth from the guys.
O's, is there a teeny bit of bandwidth?
I think they'll need to sleep a little bit.
Maybe after this week there will be a little bit. but there is still a lot of integration efforts that we have yet to even start. So I can't really tell you in any authority as to how much bandwidth we'll have.
Okay, so I think the summary is we have a beta release of the new MCORD configuration at best.
Yeah.
That's how we.
Because we are shipping our hardware today, and we have yet to, for example, incorporate the analytics modules into the head node. So we will start actually that work only after we ship the hardware.
Okay.
There's a lot of work that we still need to do.
All right, so we will document accordingly. So our cord, Jono's got the main fix to that. E-cord, are there any changes, or is it accurate still?
I think there has not been work on.
Yeah,
on
that's my understanding.
No progress there. Report.
Okay, so the other thing that needs attention then is release notes. And I started a document that was mostly cut and paste from our planning document, where every time we met, we reduced what we were actually going to try to get done and recorded it. So please, could you post the link to that? Do you have it?
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm connected with the other computer, so contact.
So if everyone could please visit that, because that we should treat that as a blocker. Okay. Is there anything else? By the way, back to the VTN thing, we should get that promoted into the summary at some when it's correct. Anyone else have anything on the release? Are there any other topics?
Do we already have an idea what will be the deliverable for the next release?
Well, we've postponed talking about that. We could talk about it a little bit. My view is that the full integration of Volta into our cord, which is then related to Awesome integration, will be very near the top of the list, if not the top of the list. Whatever new features we can bring in from MCORD, sort of after MWC dust settles, if both of those were conceivably a 5.1 mid release cycle, which would put us in March timeframe, end of March, that would kind of line up with various other obligations. And then sort of working back from that, whatever, I mean, we've got dynamic loading of services, but we need to go back and apply that to different profiles. We have the tool set that you've been working on.
Kubernetes is a big one, I guess.
And everything.
Kubernetes
Kubernetes derives back from both. Yeah.
Kubernetes and MAS are required to enable a full integration of all the.
There's a specific list we're going to have to review. Because this is an aspect.
Which is really frustrating. Okay. Yeah, so we're, Zach, or maybe you posted a schedule, or you jointly posted, have you posted a schedule for the next release?
I've sent it to both of you for review.
Yeah.
For the next release.
Yeah. And I think, so we're the 15th is what? Next
15th is next week, Thursday.
Thursday.
And then we're looking at the following Tuesday for release planning.
Tuesday the
20th?
22.
20th.
20th. All right, so release planning, well, so next week we have our TST meeting in the afternoon. Yeah, so maybe we add an hour to that or something. We'll have to talk about when to do it exactly. You didn't have a specific time?
No.
Week after. No, I'm sorry. That's a week after next.
Yeah.
So
it's
we'll be
week
back
after
to the
next.
back to the morning
Yeah.
time. So maybe we do a 2-hour.
It's right after the holiday break, though. So is everyone going to be here?
No.
No.
Holiday break.
Holiday break.
What holiday break?
President Day. Yeah, I'm going to take the Tuesday off.
Oh, well then we'll have to find another day. Everyone's taking Tuesday off. Okay, that's fine.
We can always plan for like Wednesday or something.
Yeah. So that's what's coming down the pipe that we're going to focus on. Feels like we have a luxury of time with this release.
I won't be too sure.
Yeah, don't be too sure.
Yeah,
Don't count your chickens.
I
Zach?
think that Kubernetes and the Vault integration are riding a lot of work that needs
Well,
to be
all right.
done.
So with respect to the release, what do we? Maybe we don't even document. It's just that it happens to include some Kubernetes work. If you were involved with that brigade, you know about it, but it's not officially part of anything. Is that Zach? Is open up? Is that how you're thinking about it? Do we need to do any document?
Yeah, so I'm totally comfortable with not mentioning Kubernetes in the official documentation. Right now, the way it stands, we have Kubernetes, a Kubernetes profile, but that's about it. Zach is working on getting the XOS core in, but I don't want for us to say that XOS core is there, because even if you do get XOS core in and test it, we still don't have any of the profiles on top of that. So I think 6.0 is going to be the Kubernetes release. So people who want to experiment with Kubernetes, like you say, are a part of the brigade and know how to work with it. So I'm comfortable not mentioning that in the official documentation. But Zach might have an opinion too.
So the release notes at the moment mention a preliminary work integrating Kubernetes into Cord.
Right.
Which is fine. And if there's a couple of bullets we could add just to give a sense of what's there and mention the profile, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I can do that, or Zach can do that. Either one of us can do that. But yeah, so we can mention what's going on with Kubernetes and what is possibly coming in the next few weeks or in the 6.0 release.
And what's the name of the profile?
Control pod.
The scenario?
I think it's called control pod, and there's one more called prepped pod. I think prepped pod is closer to the CIAB that we have. Zach, do you want to correct me?
So control pod and prepped pod are both traditional scenarios that work on that deploy either a single node that runs just the administrative side or the control plane, so XOS and ONOS. Prepped pod runs XOS, ONOS, and OpenStack and can run all the Cord tests. But those are both still based on 1404, and they don't have any of the Kubernetes work.
So control pod.
Oh, the Kubernetes. What?
So
what was that?
Control pod is the only scenario that works.
Prepped pod works too, and it runs, and you can go through and do the full Cord pod test on it.
No, I'm sorry. With Kubernetes. With
Kubernetes, that's the next thing. So with Kubernetes right now, we have a control kube, control KUBE, and prepped kube. Prepped kube isn't working yet, but control kube is, and it can bring up, it installs Kubernetes on a multi-node pod in VMs. And right now we have a Helm chart, but it isn't loading the full XOS. It's loading some temporary containers that were created with XOS because it's waiting on a Docker registry implementation that's accessible by all the nodes. That's what I'm working on, and I'm almost done. But because we've cut the release, I'm not sure whether or not we want to get that in. I think that because the work isn't going to interrupt the rest of the release. It doesn't even get installed for that. We may consider wanting to patch that in, but that's up to everybody. I don't think it'll affect stability, but if this comes in like a quick 5.1 update in a couple weeks, I think that would be okay too. It all depends how we want to market this and
Well,
put this out there.
I would like to capture that work is ongoing with both Kubernetes and with these additional scenarios.
Right.
So I see you're on that document. If you and Gopinath could flesh out this and use whatever qualifications you want is fine.
I think since we are releasing these alpha scenarios, if we can document how to use them somewhere, explicitly marking that they are alpha scenarios not intended for production, etc., but so that people can start playing in with that without asking on Slack, that would be good.
That would be good.
I agree too.
Okay, so
yeah, I can start on that document. It's just a bunch of about 5 or 6 steps with the control cube that Zach was talking about, and then we can iterate over the document and finalize it.
Okay, I'm assigning you a task on Jira.
Okay.
Yeah, so with respect to the scenarios, there's a guide page that has listed all the scenarios, so that would be a good place to start. I forget which one it is. Oh, we've got a search feature.
I do have a quick question. There was a question this morning from Telecom Italia about the availability of Volta in 5.0. I think I might be a little confused. Is Volta going to be available as some sort of an add-on on top of our code? Are there some documented steps that people need to take?
This is the RCode documentation that I've written, but I need to put on the guide. Basically, there are steps that you can do to manually bring up Volta and RCode on top of the core platform.
Awesome. So once you're done with that, Jono, would you? I can contact you offline, but Telecom Italia is interested in it. If you can forward that to them, that would be great.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, anything else? All right, quick short meeting. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.